Good evening. Welcome to an extraordinary meeting of the Council as Trustee of Sandwich Tollbridge Fund. We have two main topics to cover this evening. The first relates to the payment schedules and the finance and budget variances. And second, when we get onto it, is the governance arrangements for the trust itself. So, can I first of all ask for any apologies from the town park?
Yes, of course. Thank you, Chair. We have apologies from Councillor Ripley for a personal commitment, apologies from Councillor Wiles for a travel commitment, Councillor Marie for a work commitment, Councillor Gray for a travel commitment, the Mayor for a travel commitment, and the Mayoress for a travel commitment.
Thank you. And can I ask for a declaration?
Councillor, I do need to do that as well. Okay,
Well, how's was spoken, supposedly? Can I ask for any declarations of interest from anybody at all? No, thank you. So the first main item relates to the payment schedules, and there's quite a few documents here, so I've tried myself to separate them out to at least help me focus on where we're going to go. So I was going to suggest that we go through each of the individual schedules as per described in the agenda itself, yes, rather than as a whole. Yeah. So first of all, and obviously opportunities to raise any questions or any queries. So the first one is 4A, and that's to approve a Sandwich Tollbridge Fund Guildhall end of April and May missed payment schedules, and that's at attachments 1 and 2 in your papers. Can I ask if anybody's got any questions on those schedules, and if not, can I ask for somebody to propose that we accept them?
Propose we accept them.
Thank you. Councillor Pennington, second. Councillor Morehouse. And can we vote?
Oh, that's a bit. Oh, I'm not sure if Councillor Anderson's heard.
Thank you.
Oh, I don't know if Councillor Anderson's not heard, I don't know. Oh. I don't think Councillor Anderson heard.
Councillor Anderson, Councillor Fortescue, are you okay with approving the first schedule, which is April and May missed payment schedules?
Thank you.
And Councillor Anderson, you okay to accept those?
I'm sorry, I haven't yet considered it.
Abstain. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yep.
And the second one is 4B, which is to approve the Sandwich Tollbridge Fund Museum end of May missed payment schedules, and that's attachment 3. Any questions from anybody? No, would anybody like to propose accepting them? Councillor Morehouse and seconding, Councillor Black. Would you vote on those? Thank you. Second 4B, which is to approve the Sandwich Tollbridge Fund payment schedules for June, and that's attachment 4. Anybody to propose? Mr. Franklin, and the second, Mr. Pennington, and to vote. Thank you.
Yeah.
4C, that's to approve the Sandwich Tollbridge Fund Guildhall payment schedules for April, May, and June. Attachments 5, 6, and 7. Any queries? No. Anybody have to propose? Councillor Morehouse, second. Councillor Black. Good vote. Thank you. So the final payment schedule is 4D, and that's to approve the Museum and Archives payment schedules for May and June. Rose. Thank you.
Councillor Morehouse.
Yep. Second, Councillor Fortescue. And to vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on to agenda item 4, that's finances and budget variances. Again, I'll do these separately and in the order that they're displayed. So, first of all, 5A, that's to receive and approve the Sandwich Tollbridge Fund financial budget comparison as of the 30th of April 2024 and 31st of May 2024. That's attachments 10 and 11. Any questions? Somebody happy to propose? Councillor Pennington, somebody second. Councillor Franklin, and you vote. Thank you. Second item is to receive and approve the Sandwich Tollbridge Fund Guildhall financial budget comparisons as of the 30th of April 2024 and the 31st of May 2024, attachments 12 and 13. Councillor Pennington proposing.
Yeah.
Councillor Franklin seconding. And vote. Thank you. Glad to hear the final one. 5C, to receive and approve the Sandwich Guildhall Museum financial budget comparisons as of the 30th of April 2024 and 31st of May 2024, attachments 14 and 15.
Proposal accepted.
Somebody second. Councillor Pennington. Vote. Thank you. Okay, thanks for that. Moving on to agenda item 5. This is the STBF governance documents review. So item 5 relates to the governance arrangements for the Tollbridge Fund and a proposal to update the statement of purpose, the financial regulations and the terms of reference. The context of this is that approvals were given at the March meeting of the STBF to move the meetings of the trustee to a quarterly cycle, with the Finance Committee continuing to meet on a monthly basis. The Town Clerk will take us through the report and then we can have a discussion around the actual documents one by one. So, Town Clerk.
Thank you very much. So you'll see in your pack you've got the governance review for the Tollbridge Fund, and the purpose of this report is to explain the governance arrangements for the Tollbridge Fund and to propose updating the statement of purpose for STBF, financial regulations and terms of reference for STBF. So the first document I shared with you was the Act for the bridge, building a bridge, which is the governing document for the Tollbridge Fund. So you agreed at the meeting of the Tollbridge Fund held on the 25th of March that it would meet quarterly. The Tollbridge would meet quarterly, the trustee, and the Tollbridge Finance Committee would meet monthly. It was proposed that delegated authority would be given to the Finance Committee to agree the monthly expenditure for the Tollbridge Fund accounts. I've undertaken extensive research and consultation with the RFO and the Charity Commission to clarify the position and to agree a way forward to enable the Finance Committee to agree monthly expenditure for the Tollbridge Fund accounts. The Charity Commission has confirmed that as long as the trustee follows the governing document, the 1754 Bridge Act, there is nothing to prevent delegation to a committee to approve monthly expenditure for the Tollbridge Fund accounts. This is a model adopted by a number of charities to ensure effective governance. I shared with you the Charity Commission guidelines that are relevant. 2.2, understand your charity's financial information. All trustees should have access to clear, accurate and up-to-date financial information. For example, the latest management accounts. These usually report performance against budget and may include estimates for future periods. The reasons for any differences between your financial forecasts and the charity's current financial position. Details of cash flow and closing bank balances. Your charity's financial position and performance should be a standing agenda item at trustee meetings and sent to each trustee before the meeting. Regular reviewing of the charity's financial position can help trustees check that your charity is operating as a going concern and is not facing insolvency. The earlier that you identify that your charity is in financial difficulties, the quicker you can act to protect your beneficiaries. And there is more detail. I've included a link on your agenda pack here. As a trustee, you should question things you don't understand and highlight any concerns you have. The trustee body as a whole is responsible for the finances of the charity. Many charities have a treasurer, and the role of the treasurer may vary depending on the size of the charity. In smaller charities, the treasurer often has day-to-day responsibility for looking after the charity's money and then they report to the trustee body. In larger charities, the treasurer may work with the finance officer or a finance committee subcommittee. Some charities choose to have a finance committee subcommittee, and large charities usually do have one of these. This group gives more detailed consideration to financial issues, including internal financial controls. All trustees must still understand the charity's financial position and performance. The trustees remain ultimately responsible for all decisions, and you should still make significant decisions as a full trustee body. So make sure you have a record of the decision to form the committee or subcommittee, clear and agreed terms of reference, clear and robust reporting procedures, and lines of accountability. I've now reviewed and updated the relevant documentation for the trustee to consider for adoption, and the review and approval of monthly expenditure by the Tollbridge Fund Finance Committee would remain within the envelope of the already approved budgets for the trust and would remain within the financial regulations for the trust, including a delegation of responsibilities to officers. So the recommendations are to receive and note the governance document, which is the 1754 Bridge Act, to consider and adopt the amended statement of purpose for the Tollbridge Fund, consider and adopt the amended financial regulations, including Appendix 1 for the Tollbridge Fund, and consider adopt the draft terms of reference for the Tollbridge Fund, amended to reflect the delegation of approval for monthly expenditure to the Finance Committee within the envelope of the already approved budgets for the Trust and the financial regulations for the Tollbridge Fund. So I've included for you the draft documents. I hope you had an opportunity to read those. And I'll have to stick that. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. So I suggest we go through each of the 4 recommendations one by one. But before we do that, if there's anybody have any general comments they want to make regards what's been presented in the report and the documents, Councillor Morehouse.
I have historically always felt that the Tollbridge Fund should not have a finance committee. And always, though it's the council that is the trustee, but we're not councillors and we form part of that body of 16. However, having listened and read the document, that is the down part and read the document, I am somewhat reassured that my opposition to a separate finance committee has been addressed, and that I would support this on block with its arguments.
Thank you very much, Councillor Morehouse. That was helpful.
Yes, we're going to have monthly meetings of the Finance Committee. What about in the months when we've got a full trustee meeting? Do we still need a Finance Committee meeting then? Because it strikes me we're duplicating work.
Yes, so it is the proposal that the Finance Committee would still meet every month, but that actually when the quarterly meeting of the Tollbridge trustee, you would get then a quarterly report and an update. So it will be more in depth for the Finance Committee, but the trustee would get the quarterly report so that all the details that have been shared with the Finance Committee were then shared with the trustee. So it's just the day-to-day running of the finances that the Finance Committee, but obviously the trustee would need to look at things like the Quilter report and things like that to maintain their understanding of the investments.
I can understand that point, but it does still seem to me to be a bit bureaucratic to have a finance meeting in the same month as the trustee meeting. And I'm not sure what we actually gain as a body from that. I would say cut out the finance meeting in that month. So I'm trying to save people attending too many meetings.
Okay.
Councillor,
I'm not so sure that I agree with you, because I think the quarterly meetings will probably want to have a look at the summary financial position, but will be more dedicated towards rewarding grants and so forth. And in order not to prolong the quarterly meeting by going through all of the detailed finances in the month, I think it's a good idea to keep those monthly finances.
Councillor Bennington.
Thank you. Can I suggest that there be a short meeting of the Finance Committee on the same evening as the trustees meet? Say the Finance Committee meets at 6:30 and the trustees meet at 7. This would provide a short opportunity for the Finance Committee to check the monthly figures, so that an up-to-date picture could be put to the trustees without going into too much detail. And it would obviate the need to have two separate evenings devoted to the subject matter from the Finance Committee.
Councillor Franklin?
Yeah, I think we're going ahead. We've always had town council meetings for a while, trustee meetings. But this evening now, sorry, a town council meeting, they've got to go in and meeting with the trustees. If we want to stay as we were, town council meeting followed by the trustees meeting. It's worked for 50 years, so that's what change it. And then the grants, you do incorporate. Thank you, Councillor Franklin and Councillor Morehouse.
I would suggest that the Finance Committee meeting is held in advance of the Tollwood trustee meeting. And that the Tollwood trustee meeting is a lot of standing what's been decided by the Finance Committee. So I do support the principle of having Tollwood Fund trustees meetings separate from the council meeting.
It will be, won't it be afterwards? It's been over 50 years.
So
they usually try at the same time when people come to the guild and the officers are.
So there are a lot of different opinions here, and I think if anybody is minded to work up a proposal, they can bring that separately to the STBF trustee meeting itself. This meeting isn't here to actually agree the schedule of meetings that have already been approved by us as a trustee. Personally, my own view is that separation is important because the technical review is done within the Finance Committee. The delegation is a responsibility delegated down, but with a requirement to report back up to the trustee itself. So there is a line of distinction between the two. But if anybody feels really strongly about that there's a need to review that, then they need to do that separately as a okay. Thank you. So that's the general introduction discussion first. If we can get into the actual documents themselves, the first recommendation was to receive a note. Yes,
sorry, do that. Can I just not on the point of clarification? Town Clerk, you kind of said here, and just reading, all trustees should have access to clear, accurate, and up-to-date financial information.
Yes.
Well, I think, how are you going to make sure that those councillors who are not on the Finance Committee have that access? Because I think it's important for a transparency point of view that it's not just delegated to a small number or whatever number of councillors. Some councillors who are not on the Finance Committee may feel excluded, and I think it's important that they have that transparency.
I mean, all the papers are going to be available on the website, so anybody, resident, councillor, whoever, visitors to the town, will all have access to the information. There won't be anything, unless obviously it's of a confidential nature. If there is anything of a confidential nature, obviously people on the Finance Committee will see those papers because they'll be on pink paper. The residents and other people wouldn't see that. But there won't be any point where a councillor who's not on a committee won't be able to have access to the papers because they're all on the website.
Thanks, Laura. Could I suggest that the councillors that are not on the committee do at least get sent documents via the councillor email address as opposed to looking for them on the website?
Yeah, I mean, I can do that for every single committee if you want to. It's going to blight out all your email systems, but I'm happy to do that if that's what you want. I'll just send it to all councillors, every single committee, every single working group, because I don't really have the capacity to think about, oh, this particular committee, everybody wants to see that. This one, they don't. I will do it for everything if that's what you want, or I will do it for the committee members, and others will be able to look on the website. I don't mind which model we choose, but I'm going to go with one or the other.
So again, as this stands, it deviates from, I know it was a fair point to make, Councillor Green, there is access for everybody available. If somebody feels minded, I would suggest we need to raise that separately. But SharePoint, we will be getting that at some point, I assume, that we will have access to papers.
I hope so.
So once SharePoint is available, then people can actually dip them away from the website itself as another option. So they are available. But Councillor Anderson.
Yes, I'm just going to say that the difference is that the councillors who are not on the finance committee will not get access to the website to confidential items.
That's correct.
And I think it's actually rather important that if they wish to do have access to confidential items. Otherwise, they really will have reason to feel excluded. And if SharePoint can resolve that problem, can it?
It will do if it's a restricted SharePoint access.
But when will SharePoint be? I mean, it seems to be.
It's something in the future.
But we don't seem to have it at the moment. So
No, I've been waiting for the new devices, so the new Chromebooks. Once they come in, I'm hoping to move you all to two-factor authentication and SharePoint. But obviously, that will require training, and you know, it has to be a process that everybody is happy with and understands.
okay.
Yeah.
So what you're doing is you're reassuring and assuring the trustee that we will have access to confidential matters handled by the finance committee if we wish to. But there will be a tool available, and it won't be necessary for you to send round committee agendas to everyone.
Yeah, and I think, to be clear, if we're going to talk about confidentiality as well, I think when you get to something like the Human Resources Committee, I feel really strongly about that, because I think the whole point of the committee is that people are trusting the members on that committee. And if it is a confidential item and there is something that's of a sensitive nature, it's not necessarily going to be shared with 16 councillors if it's something human resources related. So I think I'm trying not to get into the realms here of promising things that I don't actually think. I think it's a wider conversation to be had, and I think maybe those that are on Human Resources Committee might want to pick that up on that committee.
Okay, so now it's not the case that we will be able to access confidential matters through SharePoint.
I think at the moment I wouldn't like to discuss that. I think that's outside this meeting. I think it's another conversation to be had.
But it is the difference between what the finance committee will have access to and what other councillors won't have access to through the website.
Yeah, I mean,
So it is important.
It is important, but I think the whole point of confidential items are that the people on the committee are trusted with those items. And if people feel that, for whatever reason, they don't think that committee, then they need to actually ask it to come to the trustee or council, whichever, you know, if it was on the finance committee for the Tollbridge Fund, members could ask for it to come to the Tollbridge Fund, which it probably would do eventually anyway. It's, you know, if the committee's looking at something that's confidential, it's quite likely that decision will then need to go to the trustee.
Okay, so it remains to be the case that there will still be a difference between what the councillors who are not on the finance committee and councillors who are on the finance committee will be able to see. And you have to be aware of that.
Yes, you are aware of that. And once we get to the SharePoint situation, that's going to make life easier, because obviously that means nobody will have to go onto the website. You can actually go on the system on your Chromebook.
Yes, but on SharePoint, what will you do about confidential matters?
So I'd like to suggest that the town clerk takes this away and reflects on it. I do not want to make policy decisions that are not within the remits of this meeting in this meeting. So we'll ask that and take it away to look at, because there may be other repercussions that need to be reflected on.
Yeah.
Last point from
Yes,
Councillor.
just to say, the last thing I don't want is my inbox completely flooded with every Senate committee thing, because I suspect any of you are the Senate. What I found quite well, if I want to come to it and get the details of a committee, which I am not a member, I contacted the town clerk and got papers. And, because very occasionally I come to the planning committee, because obviously I don't normally get their papers, I can get them on the website. But please don't flood her inboxes, and please folks don't ask them to be flooded, because she won't read them in the Charlotte. It's a waste of people's time.
Thank you. Good point to finish that discussion on. If we could go into the recommendations themselves first. So the first one is to receive and note the governance document itself. And it's just to note, so I just want to make sure, proposed by Councillor Morehouse, Emily second, Councillor Franklin, those. on noting it. Thank you. Second recommendation is to consider and adopt the amended statement of purpose with the proposed changes which have been highlighted for us to consider. Have we got any comments at all on proposing it?
Please, that's where Councillor.
Before we take to vote, Councillor Black?
Yeah, I mean, looking at the original document and this proposal, it seems to be very much that the main emphasis of the total fund is for construction, repair and maintenance of existing assets. The grants bit is actually quite small. I'm really a little bit surprised, and yet all of our discussions on being almost entirely about grants. So I'm just wondering if we've focused on the right issues. I suspect not always.
Maybe. Noted, thank you. I had a proposer. Anybody to second? Councillor Franklin, would you like to vote for this, please? Thank you. And the third recommendation is to consider and adopt the amended financial regulations, including Appendix 1 for the toll bridge fund. Any comments at all? Anybody happy to second? Councillor Pennington? Vote. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then the final recommendation is to consider and adopt the draft terms of reference for the toll bridge fund amended to reflect the delegation of approvals, the monthly expenditure to the finance committee, and that's on the premise that quarterly meeting of the trustee will receive a report from the finance committee. Yes,
A question about the details here. There is a clause in the section 4 about substitution. Does this substitution in section 4 apply to all of the subcommittees? Because the way I read it first time, it seemed to appear only in museums and archives, which is obviously it's just that the ceilings are given. But are you saying that there is a substitution clause for all the committees?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you. The other question, we're saying automatically that all committee meetings should be open to the public and press except in the following circumstances that this real. I thought the legislation was that we have to specifically approve a resolution to exclude the public. This does not talk about that at all. I was a little bit concerned about that.
Yeah, that would be covered in your standing orders. So you don't have to implicitly make it, that clear here, but we can certainly add that if you prefer.
I think you might be better to add that to make it crystal clear, because the last thing we want is people saying, hang on, you never wrote about it.
Yeah, no problem.
Some amendments.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So we've got a proposal with the amendments from Councillor Black, seconded by Councillor Black. Would you like to vote? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'd just like to find the date for the next meeting. So, thank you. That's the main business covered. We just have one more item, which is the date of the next meeting of the Toll Bridge Fund Trustee, which is on the 23rd of September of this year. Thank you. Meeting closed.
Another lockdown.
Yep.